Design Salvation, episode 86.
This is Design Salvation, your lifeline to better design with Dixie and Annie. Our mission is to share our conversation with you so we can all elevate our work and lifestyle. Welcome to the fold.
Hey, y'all, it's Dixie Stark.
And Annie Lundquist.
We are Design Salvation.
And we're really excited. It's almost Valentine's Day, and we brought a Valentine.
Yes, we did. He's our sweet Valentine.
He's our sweet Valentine, Joey Jagod.
Hello, everyone.
Joey has been a pal of yours for quite some time, and he's kind of a newbie pal for me.
Yes, he's a newbie pal for you.
Yeah.
You can talk.
Hi. Yes, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me as your guest on such a momentous holiday, Valentine's Day.
Yes, it is momentous, but you're also the sweetest guy out there. And Joey and I met at an industry event.
That's
and
right.
Scott at Cravat introduced us. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Joey, we were at the same table and thankfully next to each other. And that was the best thing that ever happened.
And we were fast friends ever since.
We were fast friends ever since. And actually, Joey asked me to, I didn't even know about it. When Seattle was having a designer show house.
Oh, that would have been great.
I know, it would have been great. Didn't end up happening, but he asked,
not because of us.
No, right. Not because of us. It just went kafooey. I don't know what happened.
The whole thing, right.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Scott at Cravat is a connector. He's one of those people. Mm-hmm. He's one of those people. It's funny because when I first moved to Seattle, which was 20-something years ago, he was one of the first people I met.
Oh, wow.
And he has kind of been a connector for me ever since. So we got to give him kudos on this situation.
Yay. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
And then I'm the third, like, what do you call it? Third wheel? Like,
no,
I don't know what it is. I came in late to the party, but I'm so glad I'm a part of the party. So we're going to interview Joey today.
Yay. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we did do a cocktail first because we had something to celebrate. We're going to come back to that. But our cocktail today is a little twist on a gin and tonic. It's a Valentine's gin and tonic.
I love a gin and tonic.
Yes. Dixie loves one. Joey apparently had a bad experience with one in high school.
I've not had gin since then.
Yeah. So we tucked him back into gin for better or for worse.
And it was delicious.
Okay. So this fun one is we put cardamom seeds in the G&T and then we added some star anise or star anise, as you might say.
We call it anise. Joey and I call it anise.
And I call it anise. And then we added some rose petals, which is kind of the Valentine's part.
It was very pretty and very festive. And when you bring the glass up to your nose, you get that wonderful waft of star anise and the cardamom.
Although we did decide after we got too many seeds and pods in our mouths that we would do a gin. There are cardamom infused gins, and I think I'm going to try that next time for you, Dix.
I think that's a good idea. I think that would be good because I don't know, for whatever reason, all the seeds rose to the top of my glass. So I was like biting around on them. I don't know. I don't need them. Yours went all to the bottom like they're supposed to.
They're all at the bottom.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Why did I?
Mine went to the bottom also.
Mine did not. Y'all look at this. Seriously. What the? Well, they are there now.
They're there now.
Oh,
okay.
well, maybe. What?
Anyway, I recommend this for a little twist on a
I just love that
G&T.
scent.
Isn't it good?
It's marvelous.
We should make a candle.
Oh,
look at us. It could be a good candle.
I love that.
Anyway, start quizzing Joey. We need to get on with the show.
I want
some background.
Okay. So one of the things that I've always... Well, Joey's done a lot of things, haven't you?
Yes, I've done a lot of things.
Tell us a little, just a really quick rundown. You worked
my gosh.
Calvin Klein and...
I started life in the Paris of the Northwest, which some people refer to as Tacoma, and grew up here, went to the UW, and went to work for Nordstrom, moved with Nordstrom to New York, New Jersey, Paramus, glamorous Paramus. And then I went to the fashion industry for many years. And while I was there, I segued from fashion to the decorative home furnishings and gift world. And while I was working for this wonderful company called Aziba, rest in peace, it was a wonderful company. Somebody asked me, if I would do the interiors for their home. And I said, sure, how hard can it be? Well, as we well know,
it's hard.
That was baptism by fire. So from there, I ended up moving to Los Angeles for a while and then came back up here quite a few years ago to be closer to my family.
Yeah, well, that's important. But you've worked bi-coastally for quite some time and been in New York as much as you've been here working.
Yes, and I just recently finished up a project that was done all online.
Wow.
And through Zoom. And
oh my goodness.
Got to tell you, got the job done. It looks great. Soulfully, it's not the same thing.
It's not rewarding, is it?
It wasn't as rewarding. First of all, I'm not in the space.
Right.
And you know how when you go into a room and you want to feel the room and kind of just get a vibe. And I think it turned out really nice. And they're happy, so that's the most important thing. But it would have really been great to be able to be there and have a conversation and look at all the things, and because everything had to be so edited down. Sometimes you go in there with 12, and because you're there to edit.
Yes, exactly.
But you can't really you can't do that with a client, especially one that has a hard time figuring out what they like to begin with. So you send them 3.
I think that'd be really challenging. Plus, so much of our business is about the relationship itself, and it's harder to build that on Zoom.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's just not the same, but it is possible. And then you're hearing about it all the time.
Sure.
But also, I was listening to I was looking at the AD Aesthete, the podcast that Architectural Digest does, and they were speaking to a designer who said basically the same thing. I mean, they're getting it done as well as they can, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah. One of the things I love about Joey is his curiosity and his drive to learn more about design all the time and everything. And whether it's mindfulness but he always sends fascinating things to me and articles, and we share a lot of books back and forth so that
the lending library,
because he actually reads the text.
Yeah, that's one of the things. He loaned a book to us. I don't know how long ago it was, 4 months, or maybe it's been longer. I don't know. I've got the whole
last year.
COVID. Maybe last year. Who knows when he loaned it to us? But you were like, you know what? While the images are really beautiful and they tell a complete story, read the text underneath. If nothing else, don't read the whole book if you don't have time. Just at least read the text underneath the image. And it was Thomas O'Brien's book.
Oh my God, I read that twice.
I mean, seriously, it's kind of a Bible, if you will. We've got lots of Bibles, I guess, but but it's kind of like a Bible. But I thought that was very interesting because a lot of times I think people have a tendency in our industry to be at fault of not reading, rather just looking because we're so visual. Yeah,
exactly.
But back to, hey, I have something, I just finished something, where I was doing a lot of Zoom too. Like, how often did you do Zoom with that particular project? Did you do it weekly? Or, that's what I was doing, is giving myself enough time to work on the project, but then turn around and keep it fresh and keep it active. Like, did you Zoom weekly or did you do Zoom more often?
I did it for this project in New York. It's almost as if the client was next to me, because I would FaceTime her sometimes when I'd be at the looking at Schumacher. Let's Schumacher.
Smart.
Yeah,
and I go, what do you think of this?
Take her with you.
And we would, and I would FaceTime her as we did the wings, and because that's probably what I would do if she was standing right next to me, because I didn't quite know. Do you is this too floral?
Like this?
Is this too traditional? Is this, even though I kind of knew where I was going with it, I wanted a little guidance, because
and more real-time feedback.
Real-time is, so she was able to, and she really liked that.
I love that you did that. I haven't done that.
That's a good idea.
That might be a good little tip, because, most of the clients that I do long distance, I kind of have a little rule, is that I only do a client long distance if I've worked with them before and I know them. And
Right,
that's
Dixie.
a comfort level for me. I know they're going to be good for it. I know we've already done the courting, and I know what they like and they know what I like. But I still was challenged because every project's different. Every property is different. And I was a little challenged, because people evolve and their tastes change.
Exactly.
And
that's what I
their
found.
lifestyle changes. So I'm like, okay, well, you used to like linen, but now you don't really like linen anymore.
What's so important too is that we are in such an intimate job. And we're very intimate with our clients. And that intimacy is because we are with them and we might be having coffee with them, or we might like, oh, let's go have a drink after this, or whatever. And as far as that intimacy goes. And so I found the FaceTiming in real time more
of a way to connect.
A better way to connect than just Zoom. Because Zoom is almost like a meeting.
It is a meeting.
Sometimes there's a meeting, they drift.
Of course.
That's a really good tip. So speaking of that, we also have a question that came in that I think we could address because it's a designer dilemma that we've all had. Right?
Go for it.
Okay. So one of our listeners is a designer and she has clients, paying clients, and she wasn't always a designer. She's like me. She's not technically trained. She figured it out. She's really good at it. She has a beautiful home. That's her showpiece, and everyone now comes to her for advice and hires her. But a lot of people are just her friends and call her and talk her ear off wanting free design tips. So her question is, how do you cope with that? And there are a few strategies, but we've all been in this dilemma. Even if we have the solution and the strategy, we've all committed this crime.
And you know what? I find that this happens to me a lot, and each situation is different. So, we can offer some tips, but, this designer and any other designers listening or any other end users that may be doing this to some other designer, maybe we can shed some light on it. I don't know. You go, Joey.
Oh my gosh, there's so many layers to that, right? Because I have a dear girlfriend who I'm always giving design advice to, who doesn't have the financial means to even go to the design center and pick something out. And so she diffuses it all down to something like home goods. With her, I'm okay. But I think it's more about the clients. Like, how do you track that time? Let me tell you my recent experiment. You're going to like this one. So I just started adding up all these little 3-minute, 5-minute, 7, 8-minute calls. It was an hour. That's an hour of billable time.
Right.
So what I now am doing is if I've had, and this is subjective, if I've had a substantial conversation that is about 15 minutes or so, I mark it.
Oh, yes.
I now mark it.
Absolutely.
Because it doesn't matter if I'm in front of them or if I'm on the phone giving. If we're talking work, then that work needs to be accounted for. Now, when it comes to friends, because
it's a really hard one. And I do think there needs to be some flex in there. But one of the things, too, is that if you don't draw some lines and firm boundaries, you're not valuing yourself properly and you're not really respecting your worth. So there's that dilemma. And then the other thing I think is really key, and I have said this to people, it's not fair to your paying clients that you're giving out free advice. And I have said that very delicately and politely to people, I love helping you and I wish I could just give this away for free, but some of my clients know that and it's not truly fair to them.
Well, you and I and Dixie also know of a particular designer here in town who is a zealot. He will charge his clients for the time he goes to lunch with them.
Oh, yeah.
We don't
do that. No, we don't do that. And I've told my clients I don't charge for just chit chat. But even though that is my time and that's my choice, but some designers do.
Oh, this one who's very successful.
Yes.
He's no nonsense when it comes to that. He has very distinct, and this is another issue that I think that we as an industry have challenges with. Boundaries.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
Well,
because clients becomes friends. They become friends so quickly.
Well, and that's the thing is that I've talked about this before, and one of the things is that I want my clients to feel comfortable with me, and I want them to open up to me a little bit, not completely. I don't need to know every little detail, but I want them to feel comfortable. And if they think they're on the clock with me, like for every second of every sentence that they've ever mentioned anything of any sort, even if they like watching this TV show or they prefer this color of blouse. I want them to open up. So I don't want to be overzealous about, charging.
Yeah.
But then I get the same thing where I have people, it's like when you go to the cocktail party and the doctor's there and all of a sudden they go, oh, you're a doctor. Well, my elbow's hurting.
I have done that to a doctor. I know. I still feel guilty.
Confession.
I have done that to people, doctors and medical people who are involved with the visage.
The important part.
Plastic surgery.
Just a question.
Just a little quick question. But, then that becomes a situation for us. That happens to us. And so, I think that your little tidbit of saying, hey, you know what? As much as I want to help you and everything, I have to also respect those clients that are paying me for my advice. And yes, it's my discretion and it's my choice, but I feel a little bit guilty and don't think that's fair.
And I also think you can say, I have a category, lower level charge that's pick my brain, and we just go to coffee, and for 15 minutes, you can ask me anything you want. If you want a half an hour, it's X amount. But, we have to kind of keep the friendly chit-chat separate from really, truly what's work to me.
Yeah, that's a great strategy. And
I like that.
And it also involves discipline.
Mm-hmm. I think it does very much involve discipline about your work and really respecting what you do. And I think you can always make little concession for, your mother-in-law or something, because that would be super awkward to say, oh, I'm going to charge you for this unless they've offered.
Right.
Which is fine. But yeah, I think you've got to make some boundaries politely.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think
it's a tough one.
It's a really tough call, because I think that, by nature, most designers are pretty personality driven.
Chatty.
If they're doing and chatty, if they're doing residential design, and they love, it's an ego thing. It is a real ego stroke when somebody says, oh, can I ask your opinion?
Oh, I know, and I love to give opinions, and I'm full of them. I have so many. I can do a whole house just doing a walkthrough. So there is a part of you that wants to go through and just tell them.
And on the other side of it, gives you allowance to tell them that what they're thinking of is a bad idea, or just depending on how many glasses of rosé you might have had.
How many have you had today, Joey?
I think we're on number 2.5.
Okay. I'm on number 1. We are celebrating.
We are celebrating, and we haven't said yet what we're celebrating.
Let's just talk about it.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, because Joey just passed his real estate exam.
Woo! Woo!
Thank you, baby Jesus.
Yes, and we're really proud of him, because I think at this late stage in our life, it's hard to go back to school. It's certainly hard to study.
It sure was.
Homework, and then to pass a big exam. But there is definitely a reward inside, and that you're kind of adding to the arrows in your quiver, or you're adding more arrows to your quiver.
Thank you so much. I think part of the reason I decided to do this is because last year, the year of the COVID, I thought, you better walk away with something life-changing when it comes to the education process of yourself. And
there he goes again. Okay, see, this goes back to him educating himself.
And it really just came out of the blue. And I thought, oh, I know, I'll get my real estate license. And I just thought it'd be a really good natural adjunct to the business of interior design. Now you can go in and you can sell them the home, and then you can design the home. What I've learned now in hindsight is how challenging it is to go back to school after not having been in school since Lincoln was in office. I just remember those days of Mary Todd and I just skipping to school.
Yeah. There you go. That's cute.
But it was really challenging.
Yeah, well,
it was
good
super
for you.
challenging.
And you took a really hard course too. Right, that UW program was.
But also the thing about it was that everything's online. And so, and a lot of, and for the class that I took, it was the first time they were doing an online class. And it was definitely my first time to take an online class. it was really challenging because I know that I believe I would have learned faster and retained more information if I was in a classroom setting. So I can only imagine these poor kids that are doing this.
I was just about to say.
Yeah.
But then again, they have younger, more pliable brains.
They do, right. And more oxygen in their blood so they can remember things.
And so you're jumping in right immediately. Like, don't you have some sort of like real estate commitment this weekend?
On Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Y'all, it's Friday.
I'm
FYI.
Yeah.
Got the test, passed it today. I'm on to it on Sunday, then I do. But I'm also going to be juggling that because I can't imagine not doing interior design.
Yeah.
Right. It really is. It is my lifeblood.
Right.
But I just thought, let's do something else. While I still have the capability to retain information.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think it's so interesting that you came from fashion, which we talk about all the time. Annie and I talk about this all the time. We even, with our previous interviews with other people from Alice to Keith, they all are like talking about how fashion influences them. That's exactly the same trajectory that you've taken, which I think is very interesting. And I just love how the multifacets that you have and the layers of experience just contribute to the overall like advantage that your clients get. I mean, I've only done one thing. I mean, yes, I've sold furniture. I've only been in this facet of the industry literally the entire career for me. And while I think that experience is very important, and I don't, by any means think that, I should have done this or should have done that. I think the layers that you have are just an added like feather in your cap and just help your clients exponentially that I don't have that experience, and I haven't worked in New York, and I haven't had that experience.
It's incredible. I think it's incredibly important for us as interior designers to make sure that we are looking at fashion, because fashion is incredible. The synergy between fashion and interior design is seamless. One really influences the other. And when you're reading like Vogue, or especially British Vogue or something, or Town and Country, or other kind of fashion magazines, there's always going to be, they'll feature a home, or they'll feature a furniture designer, or they'll feature an artist, or they'll feature somebody who makes fabric. And it's so important because that's how we educate ourselves, because we have to continually, I believe, we can't just rest on our laurels. We have to be constantly out there learning what's new and just ways of looking at things differently, even as something as mundane and silly as House Hunters International. There was this show. It was just so silly because I just scream at these people. Because I just find them sometimes they're just so insipid. You're just saying, "Oh, I can't believe you're coming from Texas and you're moving to the Amsterdam and you're looking for something. You're moving into a 1,500 square foot apartment from a 4,500 square foot home. It's not the same. Relax.
No, it'll never be the same.
But there was a woman who moved from California to Tulum. And she got this just rundown wreck of a house that all of us would just be oohing and awing over. And because they had this most beautiful tile floors. And I just thought, oh my God, that's so busy. But then you got to like step back and go, no, it's not. It's really gorgeous.
Plus you're in Tulum where it makes sense.
It makes sense. And then you can do the white walls and you have all that sky above you. And so I think it's so important to constantly be looking for inspiration. And that's why these books are so important.
Yeah, the books, the magazines. And I also think so often when you read in Vogue, their interviews or Town and Country or any of it, you get inside an artist's head, whether it's a fashion artist or it's a literal art, doing oil painting or whatever. And that's what we are, ultimately, are artists. So it's fun to read other people's or get inside their creative brains.
And that's the end of part 1. Tune in next week for part 2.
Hey, y'all. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can also find us at designsalvation.com, where we'll have the past podcasts listed as well as show notes. Hope to see you there.